Hi everyone, I'm Dylan Williams-Evans and I'm the Enterprise Officer for the University of Wales Trinity St David's. Today's session is External Threats to Your Business. Manjit has kindly offered to deliver this session for us, and he is a Big Ideas Wales role model. He will give a bit more information about that shortly. Just to give you some quick housekeeping, please feel free to use the chat facility. There'll be a Q&A session at the end, so please put your questions in there. I'm sure Manjit will ask you a few questions as we go along, and please put your answers in there to Manjit's questions or queries. In the chat box, I've also put the Big Ideas Wales feedback form, so if you click on that and complete that for us, that'll be great. I've also put my email address in there, so if anybody wants some of the slides from today's show, if you want to put your email address into the chat facility, and I will then forward the slides to you from that. So with no further ado, I hand you over to Manjit.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's lovely to be with you. So as Dylan has said, come to you from Big Ideas, Wales. We used to call it the Dynamo role model. So I volunteer for the Welsh Government to do talks and programs for higher education, should I put it that way, schools and higher education institutions. But I did actually used to be a lecturer for University of Wales Trinity St David's, so I feel right at home being with you. So let's get straight to things. So just a little bit about myself. Background-wise, I'm a chartered accountant. But for the last 12 years, I've been involved in training, facilitation, teaching. 4 years of that, I was, as I said, a university lecturer. And prior to that, I had my own business. So, I was on a hard graft, set my own business up, running it. And then prior to that, I was working in commercial industry as my role as a qualified accountant. So I've got almost, show my age now, about 30 years of commercial experience and teaching experience. So please, any questions, fire away. This is your time as well as mine. So the way I'll structure today is, as we go along, if you've got any questions, don't necessarily wait to the end. We can address things as we go along. So external threats into your business. So some of you may have businesses, some of you may not. And some of you who are thinking about doing a business, then a lot of this should be or will be relevant to you. We're living in very, very strange times, and how we respond to those things is important to, not our pocketbook, but really the success or failure of our businesses. Two things define you: your patience when you have nothing, and your attitude when you have everything. And for me, life will bring its knocks, and really it's for us to learn from those experiences. So how you behave when you're patient, okay, your patience when you have nothing, and your attitude when you have everything. Okay, so here we have a set of traffic lights. I'm going to ask you a question. So for those of you who do drive, okay, or those of you who have been driven, when you come to a set of traffic lights, okay, who is in control? Who's in control when you come to the traffic lights? And based on which information? So you can stick it in the type chat, or you can speak out. Whatever's easiest for you. Who is in control of the traffic lights? Anyone?
Nothing so far.
Okay, so
sorry. It's like us, we are controlled.
Well, some things are coming through now. Some people are saying we are, and some people are saying the lights. So both are being decided.
Okay, interesting. All right. So I'll give you my opinion. When you, or not when you, I should say, when I when I come to a set of traffic lights, right, I'm in what I call automatic mode. In other words, the traffic lights are in control, in my opinion. So I'm in my car, I come to the traffic lights, it goes green, I just carry on. It goes red and I just automatically stop. And then when it goes to green, I just carry on driving. So issue really is the traffic lights is actually in control more so than myself, because I just go into auto mode. And based on which information, whoever's at the back end office pressing the buttons on those traffic lights, they're in control, or the software, whatever it is. Now, interesting, when you come to a roundabout, all right, when you come to a roundabout where there are no traffic lights, who's in control? Who is in control now?
It is us again, as we have to roundabout by ourselves.
Exactly, right? You are in control, and it's based on what you're seeing and what you're observing. Now, they did an experiment. It was some years back, and it was at a particular roundabout, and they noticed, the authorities noticed that, there's traffic lights there, but there's a high number of accidents. And they're thinking, how can we have accidents when we've got traffic lights? And they decided, let's try an experiment. So they removed the traffic lights, and they found that there was less accidents at the roundabout. And what they noticed is that when you have a set of traffic lights, you are less observant. Yeah, you're in auto mode, and therefore you're more likely to have an accident at a roundabout with traffic lights than when you don't have the traffic lights. Because when you remove the traffic lights, you now have to start actually thinking about it. So you have to stop the car, you have to look, you observe, and now you have to see, when is it safe to come onto the roundabout and come off the roundabout. So really it's about control. It's about you being in control. And actually, when you're in control, there's less accidents. And they actually found that really, really profound observation. So you would think that the traffic lights would be more efficient. I would think the traffic lights are more efficient, but in effect, the removal of the traffic lights actually made it more effective in terms of reducing accidents. So, which is more difficult? More difficult is when you have to think. Thinking is, I don't know about you, but when I think, it hurts. I just like to be in total kind of no man's land, don't have to think. And so think about, what's important. What's important to us? Obviously, when I'm driving, is to get to safety, not to have any accidents. And imagine this, all these traffic lights, does your brain in? There's something called VUCA, okay? VUCA stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And we now, more so today, we live in a VUCA world, an environment where there's a lot of volatility, there's a lot of uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And even in these last few months, with lockdown, with COVID, many businesses have failed. Many businesses have collapsed. Many people have committed suicide because of what's happened. And many people have just died from the disease. So we live in a very, very strange world. So what are the things then we are facing as individuals, entrepreneurs, and as businesses? Okay, there's a number of things we're facing. Right now, we have a very disunited kingdom. We have, right now, we're in the final stages of a hopefully a Brexit deal. But, we could have a non-Brexit deal, which would be, I think, very bad news for us. And as we got these negotiations, what's happened? Our Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, he's now in isolation for 2 weeks, just at the crux of the negotiations, because anything can happen. Anything can happen. All right. You think everything's good. You're going to go to a meeting, and then you get into contact with someone who's sick, and you have to isolate. You've got Scotland who want to break away, do their own thing. There's talk of Wales want to do their own thing. Ireland aren't particularly happy. So we're in a situation where things are very disunited. Some people are pro-Brexit, some people are not. Personally, I think I'm coming to the opinion that Brexit is not good for the UK, but hey, nothing I can do about it. We have a very disunited world. This was at what we call a G7 meeting, okay, and you can see that Germany and United States are not particularly best of friends at the moment. And here you see Angela Merkel kind of giving her opinion, and you're seeing Donald Trump saying, I couldn't care less, to be honest. So we're in a very, very kind of disunited world, very fragmented, where the current Prime Minister, current President Trump, is about America first. It's about America only, and we don't really care about the rest of the world. As long as it's in the best interest of us, that's the crucial thing. And he's not particularly friendly to the European Union. He'd rather the European Union collapse, because that makes America stronger as far as he's concerned. So you have that. We have a serious escalation of terrorism, and terrorism has an effect on the economy. So when we should be looking at ways to build the economy, we're having to spend resources to actually protect public citizens and public way of life. And even a couple of weeks back, we've had a number of incidences in France, based on terrorism. Cyber warfare is big right now. The biggest warfare taking place is actually cyber warfare. Cyber warfare is actually more serious than the in-your-face terrorism. And what you have with cyber warfare, you've got claims that the elections were interfered with in 2016, and even now there have been attempts with the recent elections in the US that there was cyber attacks and cyber influence. There's even been some evidence, it was in the, I think it was in the Guardian newspaper, that people were being influenced to go pro-Brexit based on misinformation. So in other words, we're in an information warfare, and the information was coming through. It's good to break away from Europe. They're horrible, they're nasty, they're going to make your life miserable. And now it's come to light that a lot of the information was misinformation. And even with the recent elections with the Tory government, with Boris Johnson, there's evidence to suggest that there was cyber interference with those. So we're living in a cyber warfare world. Russian aggression. This is strain on the economy. UK, Europe, America have put sanctions on Russia, what they did in Ukraine. That puts a strain on everyone, and it's not good for business either. You've also got the strain with China. We've got a trade war with America and China. There's a lot of things, that are really kind of affecting us. Trump world, the world market's in chaos. And what's Trump got to say? He calls, the leader of North Korea a rocket man, and the rocket man calls him a dotard. So it's not for me to say, what I think about Donald Trump. Everyone can make their own opinion, but you only really have to look at the UK newspapers and look at the news, and you can see, there's some strange things going on. But saying that, nearly half of America, 70 million people voted for him. So anyway, this is the world according to Donald Trump. We have up here the top ISIS slayers. You've got the wall experts in China. You've got the sexy chicks from India. You got the opera in the desert. You got the terrorists, Obama's homeland, softies, Trump land, rapists. I mean, honestly, this is kind of tongue in cheek, but when you look at the rhetoric he gives, it's very reflective of what he thinks and feels about other countries in the world. North Korea, Mr. Rocket Man, Mr. Trump, he actually loves him now. They're good friends apparently. And here we've got the world's most dangerous men. Russia, America, and North Korea, and even China now are flexing their muscles a bit. And we live in very unstable times. Trump impeachment. So this happened last year. They tried to impeach Trump, but he got acquitted, and He calls it the perfect call. He thinks he's, justified. But the only reason really he got off the impeachment was because the majority of the Congress were Republicans, and they basically let him off the hook. Some people think that Trump is from God, that God appointed him there. There's even some prophecies about him, and so he's in, whatever he does, it's God's will, and that's really about Donald Trump. Okay, this was an interesting. I watched this video last year by Michael Moore called Fahrenheit 11/9, and it really kind of opened my eyes to the insights of how American politics works, and actually how Donald Trump came into power. And it's very similar to how Boris Johnson came into power, because Boris Johnson and Donald Trump are best of pals. And now we have rigged elections. So we now have a president-elect, Joe Biden. But what's Trump saying? And Trump very cleverly said before the elections that the elections are going to be rigged. In other words, if I don't win the elections, it's because it's rigged. And if I win the elections, because I'm the best president. So it was kind of like, you already had it all mapped out. So now you have a lot of dispute. So right now, the markets are confused. The markets are in turmoil. The news media are saying Joe Biden is to be president, but Donald Trump is not conceding, saying that we have rigged elections, to the extent where a lot of the 70 million odd people that voted for him believe him, and so they're protesting. So what we have right now, we have a very split United States, and this United States being split is actually affecting all the other trade and all the other businesses taking place around the world. So it's not good for business. But many people are saying he's a loser, but he's not a very good loser. And what do we have? We have turmoil. Now, the way things are going, he's going to have to be forced out. Literally have to be, evicted. I don't know if anyone's ever been evicted. I hope no one has. But, in eviction, you have to call the bailiffs. And if that happens, I don't think it will happen, but there is a potential on the cards. There could be civil war in the USA. This is how serious the situation is, because you have, out of the 70 odd million followers of Trump, they've got machine guns and stuff, and they're more than happy to defend their president. So anyway, we live in some very, very unstable times. In the UK itself, we have low inflation. And that in itself can bring a few issues, a few problems. But we've got low inflation. We've got very unstable oil. We've got unstable supply. We've got a lot of issues within the Gulf states, especially around with Iran, and then even with the demand for oil and oil companies struggling to stay profitable. Job losses, Tata Steel, anyone from Port Talbot, know there's impact there. Increase in minimum wage. This actually looks good, sounds good. So when the government says, okay, we increase minimum wage. However, some companies say, well, all right, we'll have the minimum wage, but then we can't afford to take any more staff, or we may have to lay some staff off. So there's advantages and disadvantages when we talk about minimum wage. But and you as a business, if you employ staff, you're going to have to abide by minimum wage rules, which may affect your profits. So there's lots of things to consider with the minimum wage. It sounds good, but there are also commercial downsides to it, as well as commercial upsides if you're working for a company. So these are little things that you will need to consider, okay, starting a business, and obviously if you decide to employ people. Obviously, number one topic is the virus, or as America calls it, the China virus. All right, or Donald Trump calls it Kung Flu. So it's a worldwide. It's a pandemic. It's everywhere, and it's causing havoc. As of when I checked this week, we've had 55 million cases, okay, worldwide. That's 1.3 million deaths, worldwide, and out of that, 38 million have recovered, and the remainder still sick. So it's quite a serious thing. Social distancing and lockdown. So we've just come out in Wales from our 2-week lockdown, and what it does, it causes businesses to collapse, businesses to fail. Many of the takeaways and restaurants are struggling. Taxi businesses, all across the UK, Europe, around the world, many businesses have collapsed because of this. And who would have thought, this time last year things were going well? So some of the solutions then, what can we do? What can we do to help ourselves? First of all, I think of it like this: to be politically independent, you need to be economically independent. And to be economically independent, you need to be energy independent. And you need to be thinking globally, but act locally. In other words, some of you are thinking, well, that's Trump over there. How does that affect us? But everything that takes place in any of the G7 countries, especially the United States, there are going to be implications for how you do business and how you trade, and the knock-on effect with Europe and Britain in terms of the economies. So what we need to be aware of what's going on around us, and then we, as I said, we think globally and then we act locally. Sustainable infrastructure. So this applies right all the way from governments to councils to businesses. What we need, and what you need to be, what I need to be, is we need to be what I call superior leaders, right? We need to develop ourselves. We need superior leadership. We need to be self-sustaining. So as a country, as a government, we need to be sustainable in terms of agriculture, water, homes for people, health, education, energy and transportation. And this is what enables then economies to be independent and sustainable. And a good example of this is Cuba. Some years back in 1989, when the Berlin Wall collapsed and USSR collapsed, Cuba basically lost a lot of its support. And America had so many sanctions on Cuba that Cuba basically was being strangled. It took about 5 years, but what Cuba did was this: all right, what do we need to do? We need to get these things sorted out. We need agriculture, we need water, we need homes, we need health, education, energy, transportation. And once they were able to do that, they could then be basically self-sustaining. It took them 5 years, and after 5 years, Cuba effectively became independent in terms of outside economies. They were able to, to survive and thrive without outside economies assisting once they had things in place. So businesses also need to think about, how do we manage, our affairs, that we stay profitable and we stay sustainable. These are some of the key things that we need to consider. We need to build human capacity, as in our knowledge, as in expertise, our skills, which is why you're here today, to learn some new ideas. And this is what we need to foster within our governments, within our economies, putting the investment into skills, putting the investment into education and training. So our VUCA world. So we've shared some things there, the world we live in. Volatility. So liable to change rapidly and unpredictably, especially for the worse. A few weeks back, before we had the election day, Donald Trump was happy. He thought he was going to win. And now we have a very kind of turmoil environment. Again, a few weeks ago, we didn't have the active, reignition of terrorism in France. UK is on red alert. All these things are taking place. Uncertainty, not able to be relied on, not known or definite. Complexity, involving a lot of different but related parts, difficult to understand or find an answer to. And ambiguity, the quality of being open to more than one interpretation and exactness. And this is the world we live in. So those of you who are in business, those of you thinking about a business, you've got to be able to think about from a risk perspective that this is the world that we live in. How are we going to respond? How are we going to firstly protect ourselves from these things taking place? And secondly, how can we take the opportunities and profit from these things that are taking place? When I was lecturing, in fact, for the last few years, and I'm kicking myself now, but for the last few years, I would teach budgeting. So I'll look at budgeting and how you budget and how you forecast. And I would kind of do like a little class exercise with my delegates and students. And I say, look, and I showed them some articles from Time magazine. And on the front cover, it would say, pandemic coming, scientists predicting we're going to be have mass extinction, or the next pandemic is just around the corner. So I say, look, scientists are predicting there's going to be a pandemic, right? So if you're forecasting a pandemic, what can you do about it? Well, and then we do this whole exercise. Think about, in a pandemic, what's needed. Think about all the hand gels, that ran out, and how they started charging £5-6 for a little small bottle of hand gel. Think about how everyone had to buy masks. Everyone started buying shields. What I didn't anticipate was everyone was buying toilet paper. That, I should have bought some shares in Andrex. That would have made some good money on that. But and then I say, what you do, you'd invest in those companies that would do well in the pandemic. And lo and behold, we had this pandemic hit us in March, and I lost all of those opportunities for those good investments. But the point is this: what we do then is, we are in this kind of turmoil world, but what we do, we forecast, we anticipate, we say, okay, if this is what the world is looking like, where are the opportunities? Where do I need to defend myself? Where do I need to put my investments in? And where do I need to put my energies in to make the most of opportunities? So once the pandemic's all over and done with, which hopefully will be, I would definitely be buying shares in Andrex and toilet paper, because if the next pandemic comes, I'll make a good fortune. Same with hand gel. SWOT. Every business, all right, needs to do a SWOT. And also what I would suggest is every individual should do a personal SWOT. What we'll do, if we've got time, which we may do, what I'd like you to do, right, is when the program finishes, I want you to reflect on today, do a SWOT on yourself. So look at your strengths, look at your weaknesses, look at the opportunities that are open to you, and look at the threats that are upon you. And what you're going to do, you just want to start off with 1 or 2 points in each one, and then each day build upon it, look at it, develop it. And then what you're going to do is, once you've got your SWOT sorted out, I want you to build your strengths. So often what we do, or what we encourage to do, is to divert our energies from our strengths to build our weaknesses. But what you should be doing is really develop those strengths, all right? Develop those opportunities, and then start plugging in those weaknesses and start defending yourself against the threats. But, what we want to do is make ourselves who are strong to be stronger, all right? Not to dilute our strengths for our weaknesses. But SWOT is definitely, you need to do that on a personal level. And if you have a business, do it for your business. Another tool definitely you need to be thinking about doing is a pestle analysis. So we looked at a little bit today, the political, the economical, the social, technological, and legal and environmental framework, what's taking place. And you're going to look at those aspects and say, okay, is there anything I need to defend myself on? Are there any threats coming from this? Are there any opportunities coming from this? So, for example, when the government says, we're now in lockdown and you'll be fined for breaking lockdown, that is a threat, all right? And so you've got to be able to defend yourself from those threats. So if you're in the business, okay, how can I defend myself? How can I make the opportunities from this, even though there's a threat of lockdown? So you've got to find ways to if I use the word, if you can profit from that. So for example, Zoom, when lockdown came into effect in March, Zoom, shares in Zoom, they skyrocketed because now everyone's using Zoom, everyone's paying for the services, and their business did well. However, last week when there was news of a vaccine, and this week when there's news of a vaccine, Zoom shares came down because all of a sudden now the demand for Zoom is gonna come down, so the shares depleted. Here's something I want you to remember. If you fail, never give up, because fail means first attempt in learning. End is not the end. In fact, end means effort never dies. And if you get a no as an answer, remember no means next opportunity. So even though things look bad, things look bleak, and I may have kind of depressed you a little bit, we've got to stay on the positive side, and we've got to say, right, where are the opportunities here? And that's why we're entrepreneurs, because what the entrepreneur does, he says, all right, whatever the odds, whatever the circumstances, however black or bleak it looks, there is an opportunity here. We just got to find it. I remember reading a story. There were two friends, and they had this idea that they were going to go hunting wolves because at that time, if you can kill a wolf and you get the wolf skin, it was worth a lot of money. So they go hunting, and then one night, then they go to sleep, and then they wake up in the middle of the night, and they're surrounded by wolves, and they're startled. One friend's like crying and panicking, and the other's like, excellent, and loads up his gun because he saw the opportunity that the wolves would come to him, and he's going to kill them or make a load of money. So, in any crisis, in any situation, you got to find the opportunity. And that guy, he got his gun out. He says, I'm ready, locked and loaded. And and he starts firing away. Whereas the other friend, he's crying, I'm going to die. So look for the opportunities. Instead of focusing on that circumstances that you cannot change what's going to happen in the American, elections. I mean, if you're an American, you can make your contribution by voting for sure. And the same in this country, you can make your decision who you're going to vote for, but you can't really change things around you in that sense. So instead of focusing on that circumstance you cannot change, focus strongly and powerfully on the circumstances that you can change. So for example, under lockdown, instead of getting depressed, instead of finding doom and gloom, look for the opportunities. Look for a business that you can do under lockdown. Develop new ideas. Use the time to develop your skills. Use the time, instead of being a 2-2 candidate, you're going to be a 2-1 first candidate. You're going to put those extra efforts into your skills. So you're going to make you're going to turn the minuses into a plus. So what are some of the things then that we can do to empower ourselves, empower our businesses, and again to open up the opportunities? So I just want to spend a little bit of the time we have is to encourage you, right, that some of the quick win things you can do is networking. You need to be networking, okay? You need to be meeting people. You need to be, even via Zoom. So when I mean meeting people, you need to be connecting with people, building relationships with people, because through networks is one method that you can empower yourself and empower your business. So different types of networks. You have group services, ladies, gentlemen's organizations, solid contact networking, proficient associations, easygoing contact networking, social business groups. One thing University of Wales has been good at is organizing networking events. And what I would encourage you all to do is to go to as many networking events and business events that the university supports and holds. So when I was working at the business school, we used to do business events all the time. We do things with the FSB, Federation of Small Businesses. They run lots of events. And two very powerful tools for networking is LinkedIn. So LinkedIn, I would encourage all of you to sign up for LinkedIn for free and to connect with each other, connect with people. And also look at Eventbrite. Eventbrite, okay, every day Eventbrite will share every day things that are happening, networking events that are happening. These are things that you can look at. So every day I have to look at what's happening today, and you can go to these events. And most of the time, these networking events are free, and you get free food as well, which is always good. But look at LinkedIn, start connecting with people. Look at Eventbrite. Look at some of the things that some of the events that you can go to. Definitely worth considering. Some of the benefits then of networking: speedy spread of information. So if you've got a business or you've got a service you can offer, all right, it gets out fast. Receipt of fast feedback. You can get feedback on what you're doing, your business ideas. Sense of unity, that you're not the only one alone. Provides emotional support. Sometimes you need a shoulder to cry on. There's some of that. Free expression of ideas. People, are actually quite willing to share ideas. Supplement a formal channel. So it's an informal way to grow your business. Psychological satisfaction. Builds the relationships and creates ideas. So let's look at some of these. So business networking conversations and interactions can help carry information rapidly. So for example, through business networking, through my business contacts, if ever I need a particular service, or if ever I need someone to help, I think, oh, you know what? I met a person who does that, or I met a person who provides that service. Or I can go to my network back and say, hey, do you know anyone that can help me with this issue? Or do you know anyone that can provide this service? So it's a very powerful way to spread your business. Getting feedback. So let's say I've been to business events where someone reckons they've got the best, invention in the world, and then to be told afterwards that actually I think your idea is, actually not that powerful for these various reasons. So the person gets to know the reactions of their listeners instantly as the business networking takes place. Feedback obtained is quick compared to formal channels of communication. And by the way, there are many networking events which is being done, virtual format, through Zoom. So don't think it just has to be face-to-face. Sense of unity. Business networking, conversations and interactions create a sense of unity among the people who share and discuss their views with each other, and it helps to develop a social group cohesiveness. So I still do, but it's obviously been on hold with the lockdown, is once a month I organize I help organize the Federation of Small Businesses, FSB, networking events at university. Once a month we used to have like a little breakfast event, and we do that, and I talk to people from other businesses, share what I do, and then we all listen to chat, and then we talk, and then we share business cards, and with that, and then you actually feel like part of a kind of small family. Provides emotional support. So business networking, conversations and interactions serve as an emotional supportive value. And people get together and talk casually about casual topics, share their viewpoints, opinions openly without being afraid of being subjected to prejudice. Free expression of ideas. So business networking interactions serve as a means of free expression of ideas by people. Each day, every person is free to talk about whatever they want to. However, you should keep in mind, to avoid unsafe topics while business networking. I find when doing networking, stay away from politics, stay away from religion. Okay, it's the safest way. Supplement the formal channels. So business networking interaction serve as a supplement to the formal channel of communication. So we have our marketing. So I always see networking as actually just another arm of my marketing efforts. Also serves as a supplement in those cases where formal communication doesn't work very well. Business networking is a very powerful way to what I call soft selling. It's a soft sell. It's not in your face. It's very kind of softly, but it's amazing the amount of work and business you can get from that. Satisfaction. It disperses stress. Tension makes the social environment healthy. As a channel for articulating frustrations, fears, and reservations, and elation. And especially when you talk with people who are going through or have gone through the same experiences you have. It just makes, gives you hope that, they went through it, they've gone through it, they've come out the other end, and so can you. Builds a relationship. So business networking helps just to build personal friendships. Okay. It helps people to connect and to bond, to each other on a common platform. And creates opportunities. So ideas and expectations expressed in business networking prove valuable for creating new relationships. It helps in networking with new people from diverse fields and getting a hold of opportunities that may otherwise be hard to find. And by the way, if you work for a company, if you're an employee, I always say to people, look, go into LinkedIn, connect with your bosses, connect with your senior personnel, because what it does, it makes your name stand out. It makes you different. It differentiates you between all the other employees. So if ever you bump into a senior manager and they ask you what your name is, they think, you know what, I recognize that name because you've connected with on LinkedIn. You've got no idea where these connections can take you. So what I'd like you to do, right, as homework, all right, I want you to research on the internet, newspapers, discuss with colleagues, peers, and find out about new business networking opportunities. For example, you can go into Facebook. So if you go into Facebook, you can look up Swansea, Carmarthen, Port Talbot, wherever you live, business network groups, and there's a number just on Facebook alone. Think about what kind of networking meets there are, and how can you join any of them, and what do you think is going to be suited to you, and think about why. So don't just go to every single networking event. And also, I wouldn't advise at this stage buying a membership. So some networking groups have like a £300-400, £500 fee membership. Rather than do that, you can go to events where you just pay, for the breakfast or for the lunch. And you can just pay when you turn up, but many of them are actually free. Certainly, things like with CIPD type programs, the FSB do programs. In fact, the FSB may even support free network events for students. So so I'd like you to do this as some homework. All right, just to Google and join some of the virtual networking groups. And when lockdown is over for the whole country and things are back to normal, and we've all had our vaccination shots, start going to some of the physical face-to-face networking events and see what you can come up with. Consider LinkedIn, consider Eventbrite, and consider FSB. If you are a business already, I would probably recommend joining the FSB, because in and of itself, it is a network group, and it's about £160 a year to join as a member, and you get lots of other perks with that, and the networking events are just kind of on top of that. But Eventbrite will show you all the events happening in your area that day, and LinkedIn again is a very powerful way to start building your networking base. So these are things then definitely to consider. Some other things I want you to think about, right, is obviously business intelligence, being aware of what's going on around you, being aware, like we discussed, of the threats, doing a pest analysis, a SWOT analysis. These are things that we just need to be aware of. So when we talk of business intelligence, these are tools that enable you, to investigate data, to interrogate data, to get the data and turn that data into useful information for you. Things like market research, understanding your customer. These are things that are going to differentiate you with your competition. Think about the role it plays to help transform your data and to put it into some kind of useful knowledge that you can then actually profit from. That's really the key thing. Turning data into information, into action. These are some very key things to think about. Think about how it can help you in terms of your goals. Link them to your goals. Think about how we're going to increase our profit, because if we get our data right and we get the information right and we do the actions right, we are definitely going to increase our profit. Think about organizational value creation, how we can create value Think about how we can improve our increased customer awareness. Sorry about that slide. How we can better our costs. You know, in other words, are we spending our money in the right areas? Are we spending our money in the areas that is actually going to be more profitable for us? Okay, and think about technology transformation, having the right technology to do what we need it to do. Think about planning, designing, and implementing. You know, with the right information, we can make the right plans, we can design the right things, and we can implement in the right direction. Think about how we're going to maintain things, how we're going to integrate things, and think about our data management, getting the information. And again, this is where networking is a powerful way, because you'll meet people who can probably help you in these areas, people who can help you manage your data, people who can say, hey, you know, these are the places where I can get my data from. You know, have you tried this? Have you considered it? Think about some online analytical processing, call it OLAP. Think about dashboards you can use, data warehousing. Again, as you expand your networking meetings and your interactions, there are people out there who can help you develop these things. Think about value proposition. Is this a valuable deal that we're going to do? Is this valuable efforts I'm going to put my money in? Look at requirement assessments, quantitative data analytics. Right now, as you probably gathered, I do like to follow American politics. And in the Democratic Party, there's some issues taking place. There's some splits. And there's a lot of kind of blaming. So some seats were lost in the Congress, so that's in the House of Representatives and in the Senate. And the older generation Democrats, if I can put it that way, blamed the younger generation because you're too socialist, you're too left. But the younger generation is saying, no, the reason why you've lost seats is because you're campaigning as if we're back in 2005, not in 2020. So in other words, we've got to be able to put our efforts and energies into areas where it will translate into profit. So I'll give you an example. One of the congressmen or congress lady, she said that millions and millions of dollars were spent on these TV adverts, and the TV adverts were basically just knocking Trump, and it didn't do much to win votes. What wins votes is talking to the people, having focus groups, meeting with the people and say, hey, what is it you want? What can we do? And putting the money into events that encourage people to come, right, and talk to you. That's where you're going to win votes, not from basically opponent bashing. So value proposition is basically, where do we put our money to maximize our returns? Making sure we have the right statistics and the data analysis on that. And post-implementation, thinking about, once we've achieved a certain level, what do we do now? Thinking about, once we've exercised and implemented our decisions, what now? And we should always measure our performance. Was it successful? Why was it successful? Why wasn't it successful? Always doing that performance measurement on yourself. Right. So I've kind of gone through pretty much all the slides I wanted to talk about. Any questions?
Oh, Manjit, whilst we're waiting for some to come through in the chat box there, you've mentioned a huge amount of things at the start there. Can you explain to people how these things in different parts of the world impact on them in little old Wales, and for them starting up businesses? Because everything you talk about is on a global scale, but can you explain how that impacts on somebody starting a business in Wales tomorrow, for example?
Sure. Okay, so it's a loaded question in that it really depends what kind of business you're in. So I'll give an example. So I'm a consultant, and I would ordinarily be traveling all over the world, delivering talks, doing training sessions. So on average, I would be traveling to Dubai, all right, at least 1 to 2 times a month. I'll be going to Africa at least once every 2 months. Yeah, I'll be traveling to Europe at least once every 1 to 2 months. In other words, nearly every few weeks I'd be traveling. I'd be in London at least once a week, delivering courses. Now, since March, because of the global impact, because of what's happened with the virus and things like that, all my work shut down. Okay, so me as a business, yeah, the external threats shut me down. So I then had to learn very quickly how to deliver courses via Zoom, to then go to my clients and say, hey, I can deliver online training to shift. There's been some clients. So, for example, what does all the Trump turmoil do? Well, with all the chaos taking place, certain companies say, you know what, we can't afford to do business with you. Because they can't afford to do business with them, their profits have shrunk. Therefore, their training budget has been slashed, and therefore they can no longer sustain sending people on training courses. That affects me in Little Wales. So we think, well, how does that affect me? You'd be amazed in many ways. Just think of like the airlines. Think about Cardiff Airport, Bristol Airport, all the airports, all the business, all the jobs that have been lost because of the shutdown on airlines. So it does depend on the business that you're in. If you have like a little corner shop, okay, what happens in Trump land may not affect you, all right? But what happens, you know, within the Welsh government, what happens within the UK, even the way things happen with Brexit, may have impact on you. So each business idea that you have, each business that you're in, you have to be aware of what's taking place around you, and then you have to basically weigh up what effect does that have on me. You may have a business where what's going on in America right now may not have any bearings. Obviously, any work that I had in America has been shut down. Any work that I had in Europe has been shut down. Any work I had, you know, in the Middle East got shut down. So for my line of work, all of these things I've shared have direct impact.
Thank you. Before I ask you, somebody's put a question down here, Manjit. Before I ask that question, perhaps we could ask the people who are still present if they wanted to put down in the chat box what businesses they run or what they're thinking of running, and perhaps I could give you some of those examples, and you can just explain some of the threats that they might be having in times to come. One of the questions is, you mentioned there are monthly meetings that you organise.
Yeah.
Are they free?
Actually, before lockdown, when we would run the monthly FSB meetings. We used to have breakfast events at the university, and for a number of students, the FSB would provide it for free. So you get like a free breakfast to network. So the best thing to do, Suchina, would be to stay in touch with Dylan, and then when the networking events are up and running again at the business school, then I'm pretty sure for a number of students, you know, it'll be for free. But what I'd also, and even if it's not free, it's only like £5, and you get a nice breakfast out of it too. But what I would also do, and don't delay, is, you know, get onto Eventbrite, look on Eventbrite, and look at the opportunities every day. You know, what events are taking place? Are there any online virtual events, any networking events we can do online? And you'll be amazed actually how many are running. But yeah, the FSB ones are free for a number of students, so I would stay tuned on those, to be honest.
Another one from.
Sorry, thank you for your answer, Manjit. One more question. Like, I'm a student, so do I need to enroll for this Eventbrite, or I shall get by from a university, or should I just check from the Google?
Oh, okay. So Eventbrite is just an app. It's just an app you can download in your phone, or you can look online, and all you do. So I have it on my phone, and it's free. You just open it for free account, and you just put in there where you live and the kind of event, and it'll just tell you every day. You know, these are the events running every day.
Okay.
So.
Thank you so much.
Another question, Simon's just put this one up. I was thinking of setting up a business organising construction works, e.g. single dwelling houses. Can you explain how some of the things you discussed would impact on that, please, Manjit?
I think with that aspect, Brexit would have more of an impact in terms of the supply of materials and regulation. So obviously, I don't know a huge amount. I mean, I know about renting, I know about properties, but I don't know much about the actual construction works. But what you'd want to do, if I was going into that business, first off, there would be some associations you could join, okay, that are particularly relevant for builders and construction. I would definitely get involved with the FSB because FSB really help with detailed knowledge and expertise with specific businesses, and they will link you up with people who are already in that industry to give you advice. But the biggest thing I would say to you, if you're going to start up a business, is definitely make sure you have a good business plan. Make sure you do your risk analysis, go through your SWOT, go through your PESTLE, and make sure you have good cash flow. You know, most businesses, good ideas fall flat because they run out of cash. So make sure you look after your cash and make sure that you put your cash in the right areas and right direction, and that would definitely help you. Does that help, Simon? Yeah, good.
There are no other questions. I say, if we give people another 30 seconds, if they want to ask a question, or if they want to put something on the chat, failing that, I'd just like to say thank you to Manjit for your session. As I said, anybody would like these slides, if they put their email address into the chat box, I will forward the slides accordingly. But thank you for your time. Thank you for everyone who's tuned in. Hopefully you found it of use. And I shall stop the recording now.